Well, even though the ruination is technically over, it is definitely not over for me. I still have 3 videos left that will be talking about this event. There is the video where I will try to summarize the overall story of this event. Then there is my very special secret passion project. And lastly, then there is this video. A video where we talk about the finale of the comic, which might have been more confusing than even the cinematic finale. And that's quite the achievement. So, without further ado, I don't think this needs an introduction. Let's have a look at what the heck happened in the final issue of the comic. The issue begins with a shot of all the Sentinels. You know, there is no Olaf, Pike, Graves or Rengar because, remember, this comic is tied to Wild Rift. And so, this comic simply doesn't feature those champions because they don't appear in the game. Even though pretty much everyone knows that they are real champions. So in case you are wondering why the comic is inconsistent, that's why. But don't worry, there will be even more inconsistencies. The comic continues the story from the last issue. That's the one where Lucian traveled to Shurima to pick up Akshan. And so, after he learned about the Absolver, he returned back to the headquarters. There, simply said, Senna was very mad at Lucian, because Lucian didn't tell her anything and he just snuck away during the night. And just like in the visual novel, ha 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 he he he, the comic is trying to be funny. You know, during the end of the world. Then when she turns to Akshan, Akshan introduces himself. And, you know, he doesn't say, "Hey ladies," because, you know, it's because, coincidence would have it, all the other Sentinels in Wild Rift are female. There, besides Lucian and Akshan, no other male champions joined the Sentinels. Also, nothing against you, but can you pull up your pants just a little bit? After which, he, another funny moment during the literal end of the world. Then, even after Lucian explains that Akshan managed to revive someone with his weapon, Senna is not impressed, and instead she just gathers everyone to get ready for the final fight. Here they all say the oath, the one which in the visual novel all the champions said right after they were recruited, but here for some reason they all say the oath at the end of the story. You know, more inconsistencies. And as they say the oath, they light up candles. I don't know what they do with the candles after that because the shot just cut away. Now all the Sentinels are on the Shadow Isles. This place is supposed to be on the other side of the world, so without Rookie and the Wayfinder, I have no idea how the Sentinels got here. But regardless, here for the first time we finally see Viego again, which you know is a reference to the story which he had on Universe. This is clever, but we'll talk about the throne later. And of course besides him there is Thresh. All the Sentinels then approach him together, even though they are not really all of them. After which Viego just talks to them about like death being the doorway into something better. Which is kinda out of character. Death took Isolde away from him. I really don't believe he sees death as some great gift. Regardless, behind him, Thresh is already starting to become more human. But Viego clearly ignores it. He doesn't acknowledge the fact that right next to him, Thresh is transforming into something else. Somehow, no one cares about that. And even the Sentinels don't pay attention to that. Like, why doesn't Lucian and Senna in the very next shot talk about why Thresh is a human now? Inconsistencies? No, this is inconsistency. This shot is not Viego reforming Isolde's soul from the feathers. Remember, Wild Rift never even mentioned the fact that the Sentinels of Light would be looking for the fragments of Isolde's soul. In the Wild Rift storyline and in the entire comic storyline, the main goal is not to stop Viego from reforming Isolde. It is simply to stop Viego. And so here, Viego did not bring Isolde's soul back. He is simply using his mist to conjure an image of her as he's talking about her. This is not Isolde's soul. This is simply an image which he made himself using the mist. Viego did the same thing earlier in the comic when he was talking about Senna. I like how Lucian then talks about how Viego is trying to destroy the world, and all it does is make me realize, no, that's not what Viego is doing. Viego doesn't care about the world, he only cares about Isolde. What would happen if they just let him have Isolde back? Maybe he would just go back to his kingdom and do whatever there. Huh. Regardless, then Viego mentions that the final piece of Isolde's soul has come to her, by which he's referencing Senna, not Gwen, because remember, Gwen is not in Wild Rift. What would she be doing in the comic? And so the fight begins. Lucian fires at Viego, Viego turns anime for a moment, and so he attacks back with the mist. But then Senna becomes anime, because as everyone is fighting around her, she's just calmly walking forward. Hehehe, another funny moment during the end of the world, and then Lucian charges forward and he shoots 2 shots. But Viego becomes a Jedi, and he deflects the shots with his blade, I guess. And then he truly becomes an anime character as he does a nothing personnel moment. You know, now he's standing here, now he's not. Now he's behind Lucian. But then comes the most mind-blowing part, for probably the worst reasons. Senna starts talking to the piece of Isolde that is still inside her. Which, you know, if someone watched the cinematic, where Viego was ripping the soul out of her and then they go to the comic, they would have no idea why Isolde is still inside her. That part is never explained. But whatever. Let's pretend everyone knows about that. Senna starts talking to the part of Isolde that is still inside her, and Isolde, from within, answers. And Isolde then talks about how the man she once loved was gone, and how only his shadow remained. How he spread so much darkness in her name. It couldn't be undone, but Isolde could still give Senna something. It was the light to his dark. His black mist would be defeated by her hallowed mist. And with it, Senna's eyes turned golden, even though the hallowed mist is bright blue, and Isolde gave her so much power that Senna blasted her arch nemesis, and Thresh, whom you can see in the background, and it teleported Viego to Camavor. Like, really? So there is the version in the visual novel, where the Sentinels fought Viego, Viego then opened the portal to Camavor, there he reformed Isolde, but the Sentinels still defeated him, they banished Viego using Gwen, and then, because the portal was closed, they had to get back with the help of Vex, who used her black mist to get them back to the Shadow Isles. In the cinematic, that part was skipped. The cinematic didn't have Vex, so everything still happened the exact same way, but the portal to Camavor never closed, and so, without using Vex, the Sentinels just walked back to the Shadow Isles. In the comic, we have a third version of the ending. Here, there is no Vex and there is no Gwen, so they couldn't even use Gwen to banish Viego. And you know, let's ignore Yorick and all the other stuff that was supposed to be there as well. But mainly, without Gwen and without Vex, they essentially had to rewrite the ending. So here, because Isolde's soul is never reformed, because, you know, Gwen is not there. Which also means that Senna couldn't even be the final piece. This comic is lying to us. But yeah, in this comic, Isolde still being inside Senna just makes her go Super Saiyan. And she literally blasts Viego across the continent and somehow teleports him to Camavor, where he is bound to his throne. Using not the hallowed mist, which is bright blue, but something golden. But you know what? That's not even the worst crime of this comic. Yes, this is inconsistency. But you know what is even worse inconsistency? The freaking throne. Right now, we know that Viego has 2 different thrones. There is this one that has a lot of triangles on it, and the broken upside down logo of the Light Sentinels, and the other throne, with the 2 arrows pointing up and left, and the broken arrow that is supposed to be on the right. Now, here's the thing. In the comic, they start on the Shadow Isles, and then Viego teleports to Camavor. So according to the comic, the throne with the arrows is on the Shadow Isles, and the throne with the triangles is the one on Camavor. However, that is not the case. The throne with the arrows is an obvious reference to the one which we have seen in the short story. But that throne is from Camavor. You can even see the painting of Viego and Isolde on the left. You know, the painting which I doubt Viego just rolled up and brought it with him to the Shadow Isles. No, this has to be on Camavor. So in the comic, he somehow starts on the throne that is supposed to be on Camavor, but here it is on the Shadow Isles, and then he teleports to the real Camavorian throne with the triangles. The thing is, at the very end of the comic, the Light Sentinels never left the Shadow Isles. But as you see them leave, you see that they are leaving the Camavorian throne. That's the one with the triangles and the upside down logo of the Light Sentinels, not the one with the arrows. So essentially, what happened is that there was the throne on the Shadow Isles, then there is the throne on Camavor, but at the end, the throne from the Shadow Isles transformed into the throne from Camavor. Now that is inconsistency. The real inconsistency are the thrones. In the short story, that throne is Camavorian. In the comic, that throne is on the Shadow Isles. In the cinematic, that throne doesn't exist. But when he then goes to Camavor, it shows this throne. So this throne with the upside down Sentinels of Light logo and with the triangles is the real Camavorian throne. But if that's the case, what are the Light Sentinels doing here? They didn't get to Camavor. Senna just teleported Viego there using her Super Saiyan powers. At least that's according to the comic. Riot, you thought I wouldn't notice those thrones, but those thrones are highly inconsistent. I am beyond confused. But hey, there is one more thing. The throne to which he is bound to is now in the same room where their wedding took place. So yeah, he transformed the place where they got wed into his throne room. I'll give you that, Rito, that's pretty cool. But all stories have to end with a cliffhanger. Not this kind of cliffhanger though. The only thing I was hoping for was that this comic would give Thresh some context. But it did none of that. Like, really? This explained nothing. We still have no idea what Thresh is doing, we have no idea what he did, and we have no idea what he will do. All we know is that he is now a sexy guy without his mustache. We don't even know what he's holding instead of his lantern. This crystal could be absolutely anything. And, you know, let's not talk about his nose. And yeah, that's where the comic ends. I quite frankly don't know what to think. Not only were none of the things which we were hoping for explained, but also we got yet another version of the story, with a totally different wild ending. It didn't even explain why was Viego banished there. But more than that, the main point of all the other endings is that Akshan shot Isolde, therefore Viego is not spewing out the black mist anymore. The hole in his heart was sealed. That didn't happen in the comic. This is so wild beyond belief. So yeah, I'm just gonna end the video there. Just Riot, get your thrones together.